Hey everyone, welcome to Saturday Night Popcorn. This is Jason.
And this is Kai, and we have a great conversation for you today. The movie of the day is Eraserhead.
Yes, so this podcast, we talk about movies and whatever we like about movies, and so this week we decided to choose Eraserhead, which is from I believe 1977.
Yup, David Lynch.
Yeah, it was it was definitely an interesting um, movie to watch. We I watched it yesterday in the nighttime on
So yeah,
October 28th. So it was definitely a Halloween based or like a spooky movie, if you want to say that.
and I did the same. I didn't want to wait till Saturday morning before we record to watch the movie, so I watched it last night also, and
And I think
it was
we
interesting
both,
to
yeah,
say the least.
we both had the same reaction. We right when I was done with it, Kai texted me like right afterwards saying, what did I just watch? And it was sort of the same reaction that I had afterwards too. So it was pretty funny. But
Was it? I meant to look it up. Like, was that his first movie?
it was. It's funny because afterwards, my girlfriend Patty, I watched it with her last night, and we watched it on HBO Max. We watched the movie, and then HBO Max had like another like additional video or feature that you watched or you were able to watch, and it explained like the process of filming Eraserhead with David Lynch and all of the actors and actresses in it. And it I believe it was his first movie, and it was, Kai may be shocked to hear this, but they said that it took about 5 to 6 years to shoot the entire movie.
That has to be a funding issue.
That Patty looked
That
up
has,
the
yeah, that has to be
budget.
related to
The
that.
supposedly the budget was $10,000
Yeah.
for the, yeah. I think it was definitely a funding issue. Because like in that like little like featurette, they had a lot of it was like, oh, like we have to film tonight, but we don't have any film to film on. Like, where do we get money for film and stuff? So that was a big issue.
Like, is so I can't talk bad about the movie. I want to, and I guess we can, but it was to know that that was his first movie. It was kind of like inspirational in a certain sense, like for someone because I like to, I guess, dabble in photography and videography. So to see someone that is at David Lynch's level now to watch his first movie and have the reaction that you and I had, it's kind of like, okay, everyone has to start somewhere. Like you can't beat yourself up. Like because Eraserhead is a cult classic, right?
Yeah,
Or
supposedly
considered a
like,
classic movie.
yeah, it's part of the, if you watched on HBO Max, uh
Oh, the Criterion, right?
the HBO, yeah, the HBO Max version is the Criterion Collection, which is,
Yeah.
I some people may see it as like a vault where like they try to put like very classical and innovative movies that for the film pleasure of like just knowing that this is a well shot or well filmed movie, and so it is part of the
Yeah.
Criterion Collection.
And I think like seeing that logo kind of come on the screen when the movie started and I guess think about like his path to where he's at now and just like I can't say a fully household name, but a well-known director and writer. It's kind of like, okay, like I said before, like you have to start somewhere. And I guess his first one was a hit. We may not have thought it was a hit, but everyone else did. So he did something right.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely put David Lynch on the map, I guess. It like, I took it as like the way I ended the film, and I wrote it in my letterbox review, um was it, I almost saw it as like, I also like video games and stuff, and video games and like the industry kind of makes these tech demos of like, here's what we can do, and here's what we can do with these products, these materials and stuff. And it seemed like David Lynch was like, here's the money I have, and I want to do everything I can and squeeze out as much production and as much as cinematography and filmmaking genius out of $10,000 and like four or five people as their crew. And you kind of saw that where it was like, this is there's CGI in it, there's a modeling
Yeah.
in it, there's acting. I think
Like the
I,
practicals, the lighting.
the lighting, yeah, and so you get the sense of like this is how David Lynch was like, I want to put myself on the map, but I also want to make this project that is like him, and
Yeah.
let's just do it.
Yeah, like I guess you can see pieces of him within the movie. Like it's his movie in a whole, but you can see pieces that he took from in his later films and shows in this film.
And what's funny, it's for myself looking up as his filmography. I think I've this is the first film I've seen of David Lynch, or what I've tracked in that app that we use, because it only shows that I've watched,
Letterbox.
yeah, Letterbox, and it only shows that I watched Eraserhead. But I he goes on to do Dune, Twin Peaks, is another.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks is a series or a movie.
I think both. I started the series, watched a couple episodes. He did Mulholland Drive as well, right?
Yeah, I've never seen that movie myself either.
I've seen bits and pieces. I was trying to go down a path of let me learn from these great directors. Let me watch all their biggest films, and I end up watching Mulholland Drive
Well, maybe
and Twin
that's
Peaks because of that.
I was gonna say maybe that's one we can kind of reintroduce ourselves to down the road, because I've never seen that movie. It seems like it's a good venture to kind of go down the route of like, here's David Lynch, or here's Martin Scorsese, and here's all these greats of the pantheon of directors or cinematographers too. Um,
Yeah,
but I can ask you this question: what the fun question would be, what didn't you like? But what did you like about this movie?
I like the uniqueness of it. That's probably a safe a safe response, but um I like the uniqueness of it. Like going into it, I don't think I watched the trailer. Like you brought it up, I think after our last episode we were talking and you were like, "Hey, let's watch this," or it might have been a text conversation, I don't remember. So I was like, "Ah, let me watch the trailer." I think I started the trailer and then turned it off. So I went in kind of not knowing much about the movie. Um and not knowing what to expect. So to kind of sit there and not know what's going to happen and watch it, it was like, okay, this is a very, very interesting movie. It's not definitely not typical.
No, and same here. I went in blind. I went in. I think I started the trailer, and then I was like, I'm just gonna end. I'm not gonna watch the entire trailer because I want to go in blind. But
Hmm.
every time I like search Google, like, oh, like movies that you need to watch in your lifetime, or movies that are considered cult classics or great, Eraserhead always comes up on that list,
Yeah.
or on a list like that. And so I was like, I've never seen the movie. It's from 1977. It's black and white, and it has this actor or character that has really cool hair. In the featurette, they said that they didn't believe that the Eraserhead character, his hair would be something that many people would want to wear afterwards, but they said they started seeing like rock stars and different people wearing that style of hair, and I was like, I want hair like his. But it definitely, for me, I think the actor that plays Eraserhead, or the main character, I think it's Jack Ness, who also goes on to play in like Dune and Twin Peaks and a lot of like David Lynch movies. But I think his acting as the main character, it's like this awkward like person that's going through life and has this like odd series of events happen, and it's like you
Yes.
kind of see yourself, you kind of imprint your own kind of like self onto him, where it's like, would this be my reaction? I think so. I think just like seeing as to like how everything kind of comes about, and in the movie there's the like the main point of the story is that there's this child who is a child, and so and it's it but is not a traditionally looking like a child and stuff. It looks more alien like and everything,
Yeah.
and it's the way they interact with this child and have this like odd series of events. I think like Eraserhead, when you search Eraserhead, it's a lot of the close-ups of the main character's face in like terms of like
Hmm.
the iconic scenes and everything, and especially the end of the movie where it's like the close up of his face or his like upper torso with like all the sprinkles behind him and everything and all like the dust. I think that's something I've seen quite a bit in like searching movies or even searching Eraserhead. That may be one of the images that pops up first. But I think his acting, his facial, and there's not a lot of um, scripts that or lines that a lot of these actors or
Yeah.
actresses say. There's a lot of silence. And like the first
Yeah.
like 15 minutes of the film, it almost reminded me of There Will Be Blood with Daniel
Oh,
Day-Lewis,
yeah.
where like you know how like the first 15 minutes of the opening, it's like silent, it's there's like no noise.
Was even
And
Dunkirk is like that. It's just a lot of silence, and you just have to like
yeah,
feel everything, and you're just like, ugh.
yeah, and it this one definitely it makes you feel awkward. It that's sort of like the feeling that I get from it, where it's like
Yeah.
you just feel weird.
Because that was actually one of my questions. Like, was I was thinking, do you need more dialogue? Because a lot of it was silence. Like, you have to kind of give your own interpretation to, or give your own explanation to certain things that occur in the movie because there's no explanation. It's kind of like, oh, hey, here's this, and you're scratching your head like, well, why does this lady have such big cheeks, and why is she not in the house? She's kind of in some alternate place.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was confused by different things that occurred.
and granted, I'm taking this from that featurette too, where like they also talked
Yeah.
about that, where like a lot of the like even the main actors and actresses were like, "What's the point of?" They asked David, and they were like, "What's the point of the movie?" And there, David was like, "It's to the audience to figure that out," and it almost does seem like that's the style of the movie that he created, where it's like
Hmm.
let's put things out there. It's a random series of events, but like you said, with the little dialogue that happens, you start to like fathom in your head like what's going on in Eraserhead's or the main
World.
character is Henry, I believe is his name in the movie. Like what's going on in his head, what's going on in the head of the neighbor next door,
Yep.
the wife that ends up birthing this child and has a tough time kind of like just managing that like
Dealing with it.
they're the parents of this child and so you kind of like spin this web of stories in your head where it's like even as you're watching it like I think that's sort of the same thing that I kind of came out of the end of the movie where you were very confused, it was very odd,
Yeah.
but you couldn't stop looking at it.
Yes. Like, I definitely have more questions than answers. Like, all the plant there were no pots. There was a
Yeah,
bunch of plants in the movie, but no pots.
yeah, there was a lot of like close-ups of like straw and dirt and stuff, and
Yeah.
even on his like nightstand next to him, he has like a big old mound of dirt with a twig sticking out of it.
I didn't understand, like, there's a scene when Henry, I don't want to call him Eraserhead, when Henry meets, I guess, his in-laws. They're going to
Mhm.
the in-laws' house, they're speaking to one another, and then his wife goes into some, like, weird shake, and the mother has to help her.
She's brushing her hair and everything, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that
because
just
even
came
the
out of
mom does
nowhere.
that
I'm like,
too. The mom kind of does that later in that scene at the dinner table too, where it's sort of like a odd reaction.
yes.
Yeah, that whole the and then the dad just smiles at him the whole time too.
Yeah, said nothing.
Yeah, so it's a
Like, say
very
something, sir.
odd
Like, what's
interaction.
going on? Very. But no explanation. Just like, here's my in-laws. Hey, my wife shakes. Her
And
father
then
just stares at me. It's like, what?
and then
And then
you
they
have a
go home to
child.
an alien baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I need some pieces.
Right. But what all right, so we're kind of getting into like what possibly like what didn't you like about the movie?
Um, oh, actually, there was something else I actually liked.
Okay.
I thought I disliked it when I first started watching the movie, but then I realized I actually didn't mind it. I was looking at the way it was shot, and it is definitely the old like 70s, 80s feel where you're low budget, you don't have much money, so you're shooting in one place and probably have one stage and you probably spin the camera around, and you have multiple stages to shoot. But I was looking and everything just felt small. Like everything felt close. Like anytime, even if it wasn't a close up, I think because of the size of the stage or the room that they were in, everything felt like you were right there in it with him. Like you were kind of going through it as he was going through it. Henry, I should say.
Yeah, I got that too, where it's like it feels cramped, and
Yeah.
that maybe it's something that like inadvertently you kind of have to build into the story because yes, your resources are very small and you're kind of making do with what you got. But it's not like in a movie. In another movie, you definitely think like, all right, the camera crew is like 10 feet away, but they're like super zoomed in for this shot. And so you feel like you're right there.
Hmm.
No, you know that the camera guy is like right in front of Henry's face. And so you kind of you definitely know that like, yeah, like they're shooting inside of that little room. A lot of it,
Hmm.
I'm assuming that they used other lights to light up the room, but you see the differences of like the practical lighting,
The
like when he turns
shadows
on
and
the
everything.
lamp it like lightens
Yeah.
up the room and everything. So there's a lot of that where like the little nuances of like having this small stage, but it works. It almost like and you wonder like, all right, like what time period is this too, like in
Hmm.
terms of like where like when in our timeline of life is this shot in. But
Because even their style of dress, you can't tell. Like that could be any period of time.
yeah, he's just wearing a normal suit and everything. Anybody like
Yeah.
it, you walk outside nowadays and you can still find someone that wears a suit every day and stuff. And so that
Hmm.
really doesn't give you knowledge as to like what time. And that kind of
Yeah. No
goes to the point
context.
again where it's like, I guess anybody can watch this and like you can't imprint a certain time period on this. So it's like you can't say like, oh, that's in
Yeah.
the past, whatever and stuff. Like no, like this, even though it's black and white, right? Like this, a lot of this story and like whatever
Yeah.
nuances
A lot of
can
movies are going back to black and white anyway, too.
it's kind of nice. I kind of want to like get down and watch a lot more black and white movies myself too. It's a nice way, and a lot of them talk about where it's like the contrast of like you have like the different shades of gray and the black and
Hmm.
white and stuff, and the shadows kind of like make a big difference in shooting with black and white.
Yeah. And just yeah, how it reacts with light is beautiful. Like I don't know if you've already watched it. I know this is a totally different movie than what we're discussing right now, but Lighthouse is like that.
No, I gotta watch that one too with Willem Dafoe in it. Willem Dafoe
Yeah, and
and
Robert Pattinson.
yeah, yeah.
That like the way they shot that all black and white on location. It's really nice. Even at night, the way it's shot is really nice.
Well, and that probably is another movie that we're gonna have to put on our list too.
But you were asking what I disliked, right?
Yes.
I think I can't say I fully disliked it, but the amount of dialogue, like because there was none. I think I'm so used to movies now where they make the viewer feel unintelligent to a certain extent because they give so much dialogue. They basically explain the story to you as it's occurring. But this movie was like you said, the director, writer, wanted you to figure out, or you have your own interpretation of the film, which isn't typical nowadays.
True, true. Like nowadays, you kind of lose that interpretation of things where it's like, yeah, they're giving you everything, and
Hmm.
you're not coming out of a movie nowadays thinking or like having a long
Questioning
discussion, yeah,
anything.
questioning what you saw, or like, or you can watch them nowadays. You can't watch a movie with like five different people and get five different perspectives. Like a lot of times the movie gives you
Yeah,
exactly what that perspective is, but a lot of it
it's how you're supposed to
can
watch
be
it.
lost where it's like you like do people often miss a good movie, or quote unquote what a good movie is, when there's not a lot of stuff being fed to them, like with Eraserhead there's not a lot being told to the audience in terms of what's going on in this kind of, I'm gonna keep going back to random series of events.
I think so. I think there's been so like there's so many movies that come out every year, and a lot of them go overlooked, but you can find gems. Like there's so many movies out there that a lot of people don't talk about. Like people talk about the big name movies, the superhero movies, the action movies, but there's so many like indie films and uh feature films from like first time directors that turn out to be amazing, that you have to almost go on a hunt for to find and watch. And then you find out like, oh, this is amazing. Why is no one talking about this?
Yeah, that's true. Like nowadays you don't have a lot of people kind of taking a risk, and granted David Lynch in this movie is taking risks with like having a low budget or making do with what they got. Even nowadays I'm
Yeah.
assuming that like even if you have a high budget you can still, I'm assuming none of us are filmmakers, but you can take more calculated risks where you try out something different in a movie, and you shouldn't be too worried whether or not it works. But um, nowadays you don't see that too often, where it's like there's a lot of high
Yeah.
budget, big budget films where it's like, no, you're gonna make exactly what's on the paper, and because we need the money to recuperate back our money. Uh, and so like I guess you would see a lot of directors, especially with the Marvel movies and stuff, the somewhat cookie cutter where it's like uh, you wonder what the director does. It's like or the
Hmm.
cinematographer, where it's like, do they just have a template that they're using, and here you go.
They
They're
have to.
just make it look like Iron Man, or make it look like Captain America out there, or Black Panther. So
It's probably a
it,
copy and paste.
right, you never know. Yeah,
We
so
already
it's
have all
like
these
they
colors rendered.
like
Let me just copy
there's no
here,
point of having a
paste.
different director. You just have Taika Waititi like
Yeah.
coming in like, all right, here's your movie, and Taika's probably like, what do I do with
Yeah.
this?
But
But
yeah, I think you're right. Like, because you can look at a lot of the indie, like low budget films, these people are willing to take risks, and it may not work because they have that hunger to be like, okay, if this works, amazing. If it doesn't, I'll be right where I'm at.
true. And I will do another movie and take another risk.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Until they
They're just having fun
find,
with it.
yeah, until they find their niche, where you see
Hmm.
it's kind of nice seeing like these like great directors or cinematographers like David Lynch, where you know their current filmography, but then like you go back to their first film, or their short films and stuff, and you see
Yeah.
where they started to, and it's almost like us naturally in our own lives, or you make mistakes, or you try something out and you see if it works. You throw the spaghetti in
Hmm.
the wall and see if it sticks. And so you you start to try these things, and you notice that with a lot of the directors that, and granted, are they more able to do that because it's like, oh, you're just making a film with like $10,000, it's whatever. But when you get kind of like more into the game, do you limit your kind of character, or you limit your style because of high budget, because of people had like this certain expectation of you now?
Well, you mentioned one of like the newer directors that's getting a lot of recognition, like Taiko. if you watch, you can go back and watch his shorts that he won awards for and his early films, and you can see how he's gradually become who he is now. And he takes a lot of it, like he takes a lot of what he did early on to his current films, which is great. So I think it's that fine line, like dialing back your style just enough where it can still kind of be shown, but not overpowering of a movie.
True. And you see that same thing with like Wes Anderson, where it's like Wes
Yeah.
Anderson did a very low budget bottle rocket style film,
Hmm.
and then but still continues to carry on that style even into an animation style or like stop motion style film into other films
Yeah.
that have the same characters and different things. And yeah, it's 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 interesting to kind of see directors and cinematographers and crew members just like finding their stride and then seeing as to how they continue to
Yeah.
keep with their own interpretation of what films can be. And so it would be interesting to kind of keep watching David Lynch down the road and seeing as to more of his movies and stuff, and seeing as to like how his character has developed as a director, but then
Yeah.
also like refined, I guess, is like another way to kind of how do you refine your filmmaking abilities.
Hmm.
Well, should we ask the final question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Our final question is typically would you add this Eraserhead by David Lynch to your film collection?
I wouldn't. I didn't hate it. I love the fact that it was his first film. He was taking risks, and it turned out well for him because we're still talking about the movie after all these years. But it's not one that I would add. What about you?
Same. It was funny because right before we decided to watch Eraserhead for this podcast, I was gonna buy it off the Criterion Collection. I was gonna buy
Hmm.
a movie I've seen already, and then I was gonna buy a movie I've never seen. So Eraserhead was on in my shopping cart, and I was gonna press the purchase button. Now after watching it, pro- I probably won't make that decision. I'm gonna find some other movie that I'm gonna take a calculated risk on. I'm not, yeah, like you said, I'm not upset that I watched it. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I watched this film and then
Yeah.
can move on with it and kind of like have a discussion about it. But I'm not going to be too concerned that it's not in my personal film collection. It's in my personal film collection of like my letterbox
Yeah.
application or the my profile or in my mind. Yes, maybe 10 years down the road, someone asked me, "Have you ever seen that David Lynch movie with called Eraserhead?" And I'm going to be able to say yes. But am I going to watch it again? Probably never again. Unless
Yeah,
someone
that's a
wants,
one and done.
yeah, yeah, unless someone wants to watch it and they've never seen it and they're like, "You've seen it, you want to watch it again?" Maybe. But yeah, no, I also probably wouldn't put it in my film collection myself either. Even if I was gonna decide like, oh, I want to like have it in my film collection, and just because I want to know I've seen it or whatever. It's like that no, this one I'm all right with that. It was a very interesting film.
Yes. Yes. It shows
But
what a unique view of the world someone with a unique view of the world can make with a camera and $10,000.
yeah, it really shows you that making a movie is can be difficult, but it's fairly achievable, I guess, if you want to. You don't need ten thousand
Yeah.
dollars to make a film for yourself. If anybody uh, wants to make a film, I think this shows you that you can make a fairly innovative, a thought provoking film with no money and just a few friends around you, and just like you can just put it together and show it to the world if you want to. Nowadays, we can show it to the world and put it on YouTube and everything, and get some views and stuff. So I think any
Yeah.
young filmmaker can aspire to make an innovative film, even knowing that if they have no money. We have film cameras sitting in our pockets all the time now with our fancy phones. So it's possible.
Hmm.
All right. Well, Kai, you want to take us out?
Yeah. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Saturday Night Popcorn. I'm Kai.
And I'm Jason, and we'll be right back next week for another one. Thank you.
Thanks.